see my screen?
Ji, better. Can see now. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so we'll get started with our opening prayers. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanurmardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. All right. So Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening. Once again to all of you, very warm welcome to today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. So let's continue. We have been talking about Shloka 4.17, which introduces the concept of recommended action, wrong action, and inaction. So we'll get started. I'm going to recite it and then we'll pick up maybe 4 or 5 hands. Today we have a hard stop at 10. So we will pace it accordingly. So maybe 5 hands will pick those two who have turned their videos on. We'll give them preference like we always do. So I'm going to recite it then. Karmano hyapi bodhavyam bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam anakarmano gatihi. Okay, let's take a few hands.
Sandhya, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Sandhya.
Radhe Radhe. Karmano hyapi bodhavyam bodhavyam vikarmana akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi.
Very nice. Thank you, Sandhya. Okay. Let's take a few more hands. 4 more.
Surabhaji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Nitinji.
Radhe Radhe.
Karmano happy bodhavyam bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanancha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi.
Very nice, BG. Radhe Radhe. Let's take 3 more hands.
Udhay Kumar ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Karmano happy bodhavyam bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi. Radhe Radhe.
You, Radhe Radhe.
Tarun ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Karmano happy bodhavyam bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam gehna karmano gatihi.
Wonderful, very nice. Let's take 1 more hand and then we'll get started. We have enough content to cover today.
Riya ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Karmano hyati bodhavyam bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi.
Very nice, thank you. Okay, we can take the remaining 2 as well, real quick. Falgunichi, please go ahead.
Karmano. Me?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Karmano vyapi bodhavyam bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi. Radhe Radhe.
Very nice, thank you. Radhe Radhe. Last but not the least, Madhuji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Karmano hai api bodhavyam bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam gehna karmo gatiya.
Very nice, thank you, Madhuji. So let's get started. So in this shloka, Lord Krishna is saying you must understand the nature of all three: recommended action, wrong action, and inaction. The truth about these is profound and difficult to understand. Now, in this particular shloka, Lord Krishna is not talking about karam sannyas. Okay. However, we will take the opportunity to introduce that as well, because we will be talking about these three paths as well as the karam sannyas as well. But today we will continue to build on our discussion on karam and vikaram as well. So let's get started with soul soup of the day. So today, what is it? Let's look at it. We are free to choose our actions. Okay, it says we are free to choose our actions, but we are not free to choose the consequences of these actions. This is said by none other than Mr. Stephen Covey. By the way, he came to India, and if you look at his interview, he's inspired by Bhagavad Gita as well, right? 7 habits of highly effective people. That's what he's saying. And Maharaj Ji says, कर्म में स्वतंत्र सब गोविंद राधे फल भोगने में परतंत्र बता दे. So swatantra versus paratantra, right? We are talking about Independence Day. Now we are swatantra when it comes to doing what we choose to do. Nobody stops us. We have the free will. But when it comes to the consequences, we are not free. Okay, we are bound in that case. And that is where we are having that discussion. How do we become swatantra even in our karmas, right? This whole discussion is about moving from having that bondage, the binding karma, over to moving towards the ultimate freedom. How do we break these shackles is what we have been talking about. Okay, that's where science of works come into the picture. But let's get started. We've been talking about karma. We'll introduce vikarma, and then we will get into the science of work. Okay, that is a topic in itself that we're going to get into greater details. But let's get started with, give me a sec. Yeah, so the topic for today, let's conclude the topic on the discussion of karma itself, right? Karma we spoke about, started with karma. So there are 4 categories of karma. Let's start. The first one is called nitya karma. Second is was naimittik karma. The third type of karma is kamya karma, and fourth is called prashchit karma. Okay, you would have heard about it. Our scriptures talk about it. Let's understand a little more about these karmas, right? It's very important to understand these concepts before we get into the deeper principles around it, right? So nitya karma are the karams. It's like eating, bathing, right? And if you are Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, you do Sandhya Vandan as well. They are called nitya karma. Now, what do you get if you do that? You don't get anything. Are you going to get a gold medal because you are doing it? No, you still have to do it. But if you don't do it, then you get penalized. Okay, this is how it works. Now you say, what kind of a rule is that? Even in the world, we have such rules. When you pay taxes, what do you get? You don't get anything. You have to pay taxes. But if you don't get, you get penalized. If you go out in the traffic, you have to obey the rules. What do you get? You get safety, of course. But then, more importantly, if you don't do it, you get penalized. This is how nitya karma is. You have to do that. Then you have naimittik karma. Naimittik karmas are people like, on special occasions. You have solar eclipse, lunar eclipse. There are certain rituals you do, right? Karam Khan talks about it in great detail in our scriptures. Then Sutak, people say if somebody has died in the family, you have to do certain things and all that stuff. They are called naimittik karmas. Okay. Kamya karmas are the karmas which are done for fruitive desires, right? Putra Kameshti Yagya, even Raja Dashrath had done that. And when Raja Dashrath had done that, they got, Lord Ram. That is how Lord Ram was born. Kheer was given, and then through that kheer, Lord Ram, Bharat, Lakshman, and Shatrughan, they all came. So that those are kind of karmas are also there, very clearly laid out in our scriptures. But let's understand all these karmas that we are talking about, the categories of karma, the nitya karma, naimittik karma, kamya karma, and even prashchit that I'm going to talk about. The rules have to be proper. When I say rules, it has like desh, kal, padarth, karta, mantra, and karam. Everything has to be perfect. And only if it is perfect, then you will get the fruitive result. If something is wrong, even one variable is wrong, you will not get the result. Okay. Now, if you look at the mantras, people say, they feel good about reciting mantras. But let me tell you, the mantras, the swar, basically each alphabet or each akshar has a swar associated with it. That swar has to be right. Your hand gesture has to be right along with that, right? And the modulation that is required in reciting has to be right as well. If you don't do that, you will not get the right. In fact, you can get an opposite result as well. Okay. And then the padarth, kal, the time has to be perfect. The person who's performing it has to be pure. The pandit has to be really good, understanding that the money that is the dravya or padarth that is being used has to be white money. Now, white money is not something that you have earned honestly. White money is something that whatever you have earned, you have kept aside 10% to purify it, and then you put that into the yajna, then it will give you the result. So there are a lot of restrictions or perfection that these karam kand demands. Okay. And in Kali Yuga, it's practically impossible to do that. People do that. I mean, to derive some kind of a satisfaction, they are doing this yajna, that yajna, but to get all the 6 things, desh, kal, padarth, karta, mantra, karm, correct is like next to impossible. And that is why in Kali Yuga, the Kali Yuga Dharma is called devotion, right? You just do Harinams and Kirtan, you will get the results of all the yajnas. He's just made it easy for us. So Nitya Karam, Naimitya Karam, Kamya Karam, and then Prayashchit Karam is atonement. Right? Somebody might have killed a cow or might have done a Brahm Hatya or something like that. There are Panch Mahapaps in our scriptures, right? Which yesterday we were talking about. If you don't have knowledge, ignorance is not a bliss. We think with the regular karmas, like in Kali Yuga, it's even more tricky, right? People drink. It is one of the Panch Mahapaps, right? Stealing is Panch Mahapap. So those kind of things, and then illicit relationships and stuff. So there's so many paps that we are not even aware of, which can actually take your journey back so much. And it's purely out of ignorance that people keep on committing it, and they think it's cool to do that, right? It's not. Ignorance is not a bliss at all. So having said that, these karmas you have to do. What do you get if you do that? There are certain karmas like that you don't get anything. It's like paying tax, I explained you, right? By paying tax, you don't get anything. People, if they don't get anything, they say, okay, then we might as well not do it. No, if you don't do it, you'll get penalized. But if you do it, that's a bare hygiene criteria to justify your existence here. Okay, this is how these karmas work. And 80% of our scriptures are karam kand, which basically talk about all the different kind of karmas. And they are designed in such a way, they are difficult. If you look at it, karam kand is not straightforward. You have to get so many things right. So basically, even Vedas is indirectly telling you to go to the real stuff, real deal, the 20%, the upasana kand, those kind of things, as opposed to getting hung in that. But people who want fruitative results, they get hung up in these karmas alone, right? So that is, but I think because we're having a discussion on karma, I'm just bringing in all these points so that we understand these are the karmas, these are the different categories of karmas. And if you don't do it, if not done, then they become vikarma. It's becoming vikarma. If you do it, not a big deal, right? You are at best aligning to the scriptural principles by doing your nitya karma, sandhya vandan, eating, bathing, all that stuff. Even if you are following certain rituals like naimitya karma, people do, right? In lunar eclipse, solar eclipse, do this. In Sutak, don't do that. They are called naimitya karma. Kamya karma, you can get the results like if you do putra kameshti yag, ashwamedh yag, all that stuff, you'll get the results for that. Prayashchit, yeah, you can do that. But end of the day, they will at best give you punya, or they are required for you to justify your existence. But if you don't do it, you are penalized. So if you restrict yourself to karam kand, it is a pretty tricky path in that sense, right? So now vikarm means something which is not done as per the injunctions of our scriptures. It's not limited to these 4 alone. Okay, let's go into this concept a little more deeper. We do so much of vikarm knowingly, unknowingly in this world that that is why because we have that mixed bag of karma and vikaram, we keep on repeating in this earth, right? So let's talk a little bit more about this concept. We will okay, by the way, karma is also interchangeably called dharma in our scriptures. Karma, dharma, kind of interchangeably they are used. Okay, so let's not let's understand that at a high level. Let's move on. Now, 4 categories of activities that we've been talking about. We started yesterday. These are the 4 kind of activities. The first one is karma, that we karma The third is akarma, and fourth is karam sanyas. Okay. Now, yesterday we spoke about karma, auspicious actions recommended by scriptures for regulating senses and purifying the mind. And today we are going to talk about vikarma. Okay, they are inauspicious actions prohibited by the scriptures since they are detrimental and result in degradation of the soul. And there are so many, right? Like Pancha Mahapap I spoke about. And if you don't do your Naimittik, Nitya, and the other two karma categories that I spoke about, the Praishchit, if you have not done an atonement for that, they also constitute vikarma in that sense. Okay, so it's a pretty treacherous path. You might be incurring a lot of vikarma and subconsciously, involuntarily, without really thinking about it. And then Karam Yoga is a discussion on its own. We'll get to it later. Karam Sannyas also we'll discuss later. Let's talk about vikarma a little more in detail. So this is how the hierarchy, not hierarchy, but again our graph will go. So this is a line, right? This is a neutral point. So vikaram is negative. Okay. So Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita told Arjun, if you run away from your duty as a warrior, it becomes vikaram. Now then he goes on to say, fight. Fight the battle as a matter of your duty. What does it become? It becomes karma, right? It is the hygiene criteria, bare minimum Lord Krishna is saying, telling him. Fight the war, that will become as a matter of your duty. Okay, that is something that Lord Krishna is telling. So from Vikaram, he's cautioning him against Vikaram, that you will draw infamy, right? And you will incur sin if you run away from your duty. He's taking him towards Karam, at least do Karam, what is needed. Okay, good Karam, which is fighting the battle as a warrior. Does it stop here? No, it doesn't stop here. It goes further. Go to the neutral karma, which is Karam Yoga, which we'll talk about in detail. Now, what does it mean? It means fight the battle as a matter of your duty, however, for the pleasure of God and not for self-aggrandizement. That is essentially the science of work, which we will go in greater detail. Okay. So this is how this whole process goes. In every situation, you could end up doing a vikaram. Okay, that could not be the action. It could be thought. Your thought leading you to do vikaram. Or you could be doing a karam, which is a befitting action in that particular circumstance in accordance with what is your prescribed duty. Or you could neutralize everything and do karam yoga. You do it to the best of your ability without being attached to the result for the pleasure of God and not for any self-seeking. That's it. That is the highest principle, which will be a topic in itself in the forthcoming sessions. But let's continue our discussion on what we are talking about, the vikaram aspect of it. Now, do you feel like running away from the world? Right? Is it vairagya? Let's understand this. A lot of people have this thing. Right, I have so much of tension in this world, right? Paying EMIs, stress at work, family members are pulling us down. Then we have stock market crashing. Oh my God, my life's savings have been wiped off. The news, terrible news, Ukraine war, and what is happening in Gulf countries and the Middle East and all that stuff. And then you have somebody who's always putting you down in life, right, which just depresses you. It could be a near and dear one. It could be somebody whom you hold very dear to your heart, or somebody who's a matter of somebody significant in your life, because of which you feel like running away from the world, right? Is it detachment? First of all, we'll try to look that in perspective, and which category of karma would it fall into if you do that, right? A lot of people, they use spirituality as a proxy or an alibi for running away from the world. In fact, they use it as a weapon also. Hey, if you do this, I'm going to go to Vrindavan. Okay, and it's a very good statement to make, right? People freak out on the name of Vrindavan. Yes, Shyamji, you had a question. You wanted to add something?
There's a comment in the chat window from Malini ji. He's asking, does Prashchit applies to Vikaram?
Prashchit does not apply to Vikaram. Prashchit means you are atoning for something, some sin that you have done. So it's actually karam. It is a good karam. Prashchit is a good karam, atonement. Right? People even in Christianity, they go to churches and do confessions. That is also kind of that deal only. It is not vikaram. It is actually karam, technically. I hope that answers your question. However, I would say It is more for people who are in path of Karam Kand and stuff. We'll get into the higher principles there. It is just for your understanding that if you have to align to karma, it is pretty exhaustive. First of all, understanding karma, dharma is very, very tricky. Secondly, it has its rules and regulations. If you don't perform it to perfection, you will not get the right result. Right? There's a story about Kumbhakaran and Ravan worshipping Lord Brahma. So whenever somebody worships Lord Brahma, Indra gets insecure because the first thing that they want to take is Indrasan. So he becomes insecure, and then he goes to Mother Saraswati, Goddess Saraswati, who's the goddess of literature, poetry, and even she's basically bestows education and knowledge as well, right? So he goes to Mother Saraswati and says, you have to help me out. And how to help it out? He said, when he's going to ask for the boon, you just dance on his tongue and make sure that instead of his tongue touching, when you say E, right, your tongue touches your teeth. So Saraswati, Mother, you please dance so that, the tongue touches the top of your mouth, his mouth. So when he asks for it, he asks for a boon when Brahmaji appears. So instead of asking for Indrasan, he says Nindrasan. Okay, and though he says Tathastu. So we know what happens, right? Rest is his history. Kumbhakaran used to sleep. So Ravan said, this is not fair. If he continues to sleep, what is the difference between him being alive or being dead? Then he said, okay, we'll do it 6 months. He made a discount offer for that, and that's how it worked. So the point here is, if you're not reciting mantras properly, you could actually be causing more harm than good to yourself. So it's better not to get into Karam Kand, because end game of Karam Kand is also darkness. Why? Because it's not going to lead you to moksha. Not even moksha, forget about divine love. So Karam Kand is something which is strategically probably made difficult, so that, okay, if you are hung up in this world, put in the hard work to do that. And if you do that, will give you the result, but you will still not get caught, or you will not be released from the grip of Maya just by doing Karam Kand. Yes, Himanshu, you want to add something before I move further?
I wanted to ask actually something, that when you said there is a relation between dharma and karma and they are actually used sometimes interchangeably, maybe, I'm not sure. So when we like the first type of karma that you explained, so if we see the dharma part, like Swadharma or Sadharma, the moral dharma or the dharma which is like a personal duty for all of us. But then I'm just trying to understand, so it's only there so that, like how Swamiji explains this, that it's the primary kaksha, because ultimately we have to go towards higher dharmas and reject the lower dharmas, right? Because one example, I was just seeing this, that when Lakshmanji sacrificed everything, obviously we can derive the dasya bhav, but in terms of dharma, he rejected all the lower dharmas. He rejected his wife and he just went for seva of Sita and Ram and Sita. Right? So basically that is our motive, right? Like we have to go towards the highest dharma.
Very true. Good point that you brought in, Himanshu. So this is how it goes. The dharma is categorized into 2 categories. One is dharma at the level of body, right? Apara dharma, and then one at the level of soul. The reason we have to align to dharma is because we are right now not situated in an understanding that we are a soul. So until we reach that stage to regulate our mind and senses, the bodily dharmas have to be performed. But once you start reaching that stage, the lower dharma can be rejected, right? Lakshman, when he was asked by Ram that you serve mother and father while I go into the exile. So Lakshman said, who are you kidding? Tell me who's the father of my father of my father. The ultimate father is you. So why should I listen to this instruction? I am serving you, so I'm already serving that purpose. But Lakshman was situated in that knowledge and at that platform, he could reject the lower dharma. For us, until we reach that level, the prescribed duties have to be done, because it will help us as a stepping stone towards the higher dharma. But however, having said that, when we start aligning to the higher dharma, which is seva, is also higher dharma. Seva is another way of aligning to the higher dharma, right? Then whenever there is a conflict between your bodily dharma and higher dharma takes precedence. Good point. That's a good technical point. Thank you for calling that out. Yes, Preeti ji.
Everyone, a very good question, Himanshuji and Nitinji, a beautiful answer. It wouldn't have occurred to me to ask such a question, but an enlightenment for me today. I have a similar question. Like you said, we do karma kand, we chant the verses, and sometimes, since I'm not trained, I have just heard it and learned it from here and there. I try and do it to the best of my ability. There is every chance that I may be going wrong here and there. Several, not every, several chances. But my intention is
I understood.
devotion.
Will intention matter, right?
Huh. So in this case, am I wrong? Am I committing a sin?
Not a sin, I would say. See, most of the mantras that we do, see, there are enough examples in our scriptures to illustrate this point where you are doing it for a particular action, and because you were getting the swar and other things wrong, it had a counterproduct. There was one demon who was actually doing a yajna to make himself stronger than, I think, Indra. And then the way he was reciting, he actually made him stronger. While he was thinking he's becoming stronger, the other person became stronger. So those kind of things are there. The kind of mantras we do, I think, pretty basic, more related to God's name and stuff like that. So I think that should not matter as much. And that is why God has simplified. He said, why to go for, all the fancy mantras, which might be hard on your tongue and your memory. You do Radhe Sham, you do Sitaram, you'll get the same effect. Because
So
God put all his powers in the name itself. So
I have a quick follow-up question, if you allow me.
sure.
So if I chant Bhagavad Gita every day, say, I do that. I do it with the intention of, purifying myself, maybe making a better version of myself, I would say. So in that case, if I go wrong here and there, what am I doing?
I think the Bhagavad Gita is you are not doing it for a fruitive action, right? I'm talking
Yes.
about when you are attached to an outcome and
Right.
you're not doing it right, then you might not get that outcome. In this particular case, of course, Bhagavad Gita is like conversing with Lord Krishna and he understands. So he
Yes.
would cut us some slack on that part. It's more about when you do Karam Kand with some expectation in return, then you have to get it perfectly right. That's essentially what it is. But in this case, you are trying to actually develop love, faith for God, and bring about a transformation from within. So God doesn't matter. Like there's a beautiful story where a girl, she said, all I can recite in front of you, God, is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, yeah, up to Z. Now you form a word and choose the prayer you like. Okay, so of course God will honor that, right? So he said, I only know alphabets. You make a prayer out of it and be my guest around it. Yes, Champaji wanted to add something real quick, and then we'll continue. See, I have a beautiful discussion coming up, so I don't want to miss out on that. It's a very, very important discussion. So yes, Champaji, please.
I really love today's discussion. I just want to put my bit in here. That proper pronunciation and things like that and all that eligibility comes only for, according to my understanding, is when you chant Vedas.
Vedas, Vedic mantras for some.
Vedic mantras. That's why in Veda, it was Hare Rama came first. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because to chant the Vedic, you should have the eligibility. To the common man, he made it Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So the mantras, most of us, we chant is daily chant. It won't have any negative effect if we pronounce it wrong. Because especially in India, each region has a different pronunciation altogether. So, but we even if we want to, if we have not learned the Vedas, we cannot chant those. So I don't think we have to worry about it.
Those are those esoteric Vedic mantras.
Very difficult. It has to come from the navel, and it is so hard. You have to go through rigorous learning and practice.
True, very true.
Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Champaji, and very good to hear from you after a while. So thank you so much for that. Yes, Sandhya, real quick.
I can go later. I have a question, but it can wait.
Okay, no, go ahead.
So it was regarding this discussion about bodily duty versus seva. So, but at times we have to consider our bodily duties as well as seva, right? So in those cases, what do you give precedence to?
Give me an example.
Whatever we need to do for our daily living, that supports us.
Yeah, so then so that matters. What is the intention behind it, right? So like bodily duty is to take care of this body and keep it healthy. So that What? So that
So that
you
it enables us to do seva, say for that matter. Yeah.
seva, so that I can prolong my life and get a better shot at achieving my goal, right? So the so that can be purified and it becomes seva at that point, right? So it's nothing to do with bhog for your own self, and then you are attaching it to a higher cause, and that makes all the difference. The intention, the motive behind it. That's it. And that could be your bodily duty as well, right? So that is how it can be. So everything can be dovetailed actually in that sense. We'll get into when we get to Karam Yoga. I think this discussion is going to really become very fascinating because we'll pick up some practical examples from life and see how do we apply Karam Yoga to the situation. So let's do that. Gear up for that. And all the questions that you have related to Karam Yoga, we are just talking about Karam and Vikarma right now, but Karam Yoga is the real deal, right? Because when we talk about Bhakti, we talk about three things. There are three aspects of Bhakti: Nan principle, Nishkamta, Ananyata, Nirantarta. So Nirantarta can only come in through Karam Yoga. Okay, and if we don't practice Karam Yoga, we will fail on that Nirantarta aspect. Ananyata, we can build intellectual conviction. Intellectual conviction can take us to Ananyata. Nishkamta, yes, of course, it's a journey. We have to build it. Guru will work on us to peel the layers of selfishness. But Nirantarta is the difficult one that can only come through the principle of Karam Yoga that we are going to get into great details for. All right, now let's talk about an analogy. This is an important concept. So you see, this is somebody who's plucking fruit. Right? It's plucking fruit. Now, what is the difference between this tree and this one? The apple that fell on Newton's head. Okay, that apple and the apple that she's plucking, there's some difference, technical difference. Anybody who can call that out? That lucky apple that fell on Newton's head. Yes, Shamji, and please go ahead.
Yeah, Manjuji, please go ahead. Radhe Radhe.
Yes, Manjuji.
Radhe Radhe Nitinji and all. I guess like in the first picture where she's plucking the fruits, it is by her own will. They may be ripe or unripe.
Very
But
true.
in the second case, the apple is falling. Maybe it has ripe, or maybe because of the external environmental conditions like wind or something.
Sure, very true. Good. I think you hit the points that I was trying to make. So in the first case, she might be plucking an apple which is almost ripe but not yet ready to leave the tree. Okay, that could be one case. It's ripe, ready to eat, or it's yet to ripe, right? So somebody might pluck a mango and then bring some masala, and in India it happens, right? The masala mangoes, you get a mango which is actually ripened, and then mostly when they start coming before the seasons, people don't like it. They know the difference between the taste, right? This is masala mango. It's not even healthy for that matter. And the one which is ripe, which is ready for the plucking. And in the second case, if you look at it, yes, that apple has fallen on Newton's head because it was ripe and naturally leaves the tree. Okay, so this is an important concept to understand. Now, when you leave the world like these, you are externally, that's an external superficial change only. Okay, when you say like Babas and all, they might be taking sannyas and renouncing stuff, or say, I will go away from you, I'll go to Vrindavan and do that. It is a superficial change when people bring in that argument. Okay, and they are still attached to the world. Okay, it's like that unripened apple. So what Rup Goswami ji says is that if one renounces anything which could be applied in the service of Lord and does not use it for that purpose, that is called Falgu Viragya. So when the fruit is ripe, when the person has already developed enough detachment from this world, this becomes a moot point. You don't even have to announce to the world, I'm leaving. Like Buddha, he walked in the middle of the night. So this is a process where you have reached that level of detachment, where sannyas isn't what is basically is a natural progression of your spiritual journey. However, that doesn't mean you have to become a sannyasi, then only you have spiritually progressed. Don't correlate those things. What I'm trying to say here is that prematurely we cannot renounce the world. And if you do that, it is called Falgu Viragya. In fact, the world is here for us to evolve and spiritually progress. So if you are endowed with relatives, friends, family, kids, wife, spouse, whoever, they are there for a strategic purpose. We cannot say they are an impediment to my spirituality, I need to run away from them. In fact, we need to embrace that aspect and see how we can progress dutifully and beautifully. Okay, it's an opportunity. In fact, God has given that up. You can actually utilize that for the service of God. Work with them in a consciousness, in a purified consciousness, as a matter of duty, as opposed to always trying to, run away from the world and shunning your responsibilities. That becomes vikaram. That is not a karam, that becomes vikaram at that point. Okay. So even in your life, day-to-day life, it could be a professional life, personal life, if you have these kind of pangs, oh, enough of it, I need to run away from it, and this is, we are actually leaning more towards vikaram. We should just embrace whatever is God has placed our way, whichever situation, pass that test in a proper consciousness and keep moving on. In fact, higher the threat, the bigger the opportunity. This is how world is designed. So nobody can cry foul with their situation, circumstance, or what they are dealt with in life. Nobody can actually. We don't have a moral right to complain for anything for that matter. Okay. And running away from our responsibility is not the right. It is called vikaram. In fact, it will take us to the nether regions. It is equivalent to committing a sin. If you turn your back towards your responsibility, use spirituality as an excuse and shun the world and your responsibilities. That is how it's meant to be. So this is called hypocrisy, right? Because that change is superficial. Right now you find the world troublesome, so you run towards spirituality. Tomorrow you will find a problem in going get stuff in spirituality, in the seva world. You come across people who are challenging your ego, your pride, your self-esteem, that false projection of yourself. You will turn away from there as well. Doesn't work that way, because the real deal is an inner software that we have not worked on. When the inner software is ready, then you gradually gravitate towards other things, right? However, when we continue to work on ourselves, doing seva and stuff like that, our secret stash is confronted, and that gives an opportunity to evolve. But if our motive is to run away from the world, it is too troublesome. We are actually just, what you call that, delaying our tests. The tests are still waiting for you, because the purpose of the universe is not yet served. The purpose of God, while we celebrate our convenience, God celebrates when we overcome hardships. Okay, and those are the tests we have to pass with flying colors if we have to move to the next class. Otherwise, that test will keep on repeating. So Falgu Vairagya is something we need to be very, very, very cautious about, because this is an argument your mind will present when the going will start getting tough in the world. And you'll think spirituality, I'm going to get the peace of mind there and I need to run away from the world. Doesn't work that way. Okay, those tests could be even more sterner there. All right. So with that said, let's move on. I'll tell you a story. Do we have time for the story? Yes, I think I can tell you this story. So there was a well in a village. Okay. There was a well in a village. And what happened was, there was a dog which died and fell into that well. Okay. Vanished. So this was the only well in the village, and then people started getting water from it. Of course, it was stale, right? And they started complaining about, people started falling sick. So they went to their Guruji, wise old man there, and said, what do we do? So this water is putrefied, and it's just causing havoc in the whole village. We have only one well to go with. So he said, you know what? Bring out all the water which is putrefied, work round the clock and just take everything out. Okay, because well is called well because it gets well after a while, right? The water will come, the groundwater will come again. So they did overnight job. A lot of people came in and took away all the dirty water, the water which had stench and all, which had putrefied, and threw it off, and until the fresh water started coming in. Okay, however, that fresh water did not last long. What happened? Because the dog was still there. Okay, they removed the water, they cleaned the water, but the dog was still there. So they did not solve the problem. Similarly, if you are only hooked to WhatsApp messages, self-help books, somebody said something to you, you feel inspired and feel good about something, right? Get excited and share it to other people and practice something. That will not have a lasting impact. Okay, that includes cleaning your chakras, Kundalini chakras as well. You can clean those. Okay, but the dog is still there. Okay, and then what is going to happen is it is just a symptomatic cure that you have done. You have not addressed the root cause. Okay, and we are going to talk about how do we address that root cause so that we get beyond this cycle of karam and vikaram. That this vikaram, why does the vikaram happen? You may do karam. So this process of getting fresh water occasionally is there in our life too. But again, the putrefied water comes because the dog is still there. Until you remove the dog, you will not be able to get to the akaram aspect of it. You will keep having fresh water, fresh water, all that stuff will continue happening. And that includes any practice that you do. Okay, because you are still not gone to the root cause of that problem. And what is that root cause? How do we alleviate that is what we will continue as we continue to progress on the science of work. All right, now any questions then on the discussion that we have had today? Through progress, I will talk about a little bit, but any questions so far? I know we discussed a lot of concepts there as well. Yes, Manjuji.
Radhe Radhe. I don't know whether I should ask this or not. Like in respect of the previous slide, like that ready to leave or it is not yet ready to leave. So in my experience, I happened to have my relatives taking his life by himself. So we feel like he was not supposed to go, like, but why did he go? Like in that case, like, is the death predestined or how like, I just wanted to know.
See, we come with our own exit ticket. Like you go into a train journey, you have an exit ticket and you have to go. So Janam, Mrityu, Labh, Hani, Yash, Apyash, God keeps in his hand. Which family, what time, what circumstances, under what circumstances, which tradition, which country, which place, everything is destined. The mother's womb and the timing of your birth is chosen. Similarly, your exit is also. So death is something nobody can refute. Right? We spoke about the concept of Abhimanyu. His father was Arjun. Right? His marriage was done by Vedvyas. Vedvyas himself had done. And then Krishna was his mama. Could death spare him? When his time came, he had to leave. So that is the part of life. You have to accept it.
Was his good karmas or support from the family would have increased his lifespan or no?
First of all, we cannot add karmas to others or withdraw karmas from others. Each one of his is alone.
No. His own good karmas. Oh, okay. Or the support from the family. That doesn't.
Nobody else. By the way, tomorrow I'll introduce that concept. Good, you asked that question. I'll put this family thing in perspective tomorrow. Look out for the soul soup segment. I'll talk about this concept.
Thank you so much. Radhe Radhe.
He adds anything. Everybody is having their own destiny and their own. Nobody can add anything or subtract anything for anybody. Okay, and it's all driven by the prarabdha, and how much duration is granted to us in this particular human body is already decided, and that is why we said we have to make the most of it. Nobody knows tomorrow we'll wake up or not, right? We hear so many news things around, and that is why I've got to value the human life, because it can be snatched away at any moment and without any intimation. If there was a Akashvani or something that you're going to go away, like Parikshit had that advantage. We don't have it. Right? If we have it, then people will start thronging you, get a few signatures and this and that from you, but God doesn't give you that opportunity. It's like silently, we have to move on. Yes, Madhuji, you wanted to ask something as well?
Madhuji, Radhe Radhe.
Was that you told that to go away from our duties, day-to-day duties, and all that. It is the Falgu renunciation.
Yes.
But I want to ask that, so suppose we are living in a family like that you showed in your third picture, and the children are grown up, they don't require our help and guidance anymore. They say that we will take our care ourselves, and after that we are trying to give their children guidance, being a experienced mother and all that. So is it not a vikarm that we are unnecessary, we are interfering and unnecessary we are doing that? We are doing the service of God and thinking these things, that whatever they say, let it be, and we should do. Is it not a vikarma that unnecessary we are doing that thing?
Yes, I got your question. It is bordering on that part only, because if you look at it, Varnashram Dharam, see, human species is the only one which does not let go of their kids even after they are married or settled, right? We continue to be a helicopter parent and we want them to be our babies even when they are grown up. So that is something I think we need to draw a line around that, because Varnashram Dharam tells you now it's about time to take retirement from that stuff and devote your time towards God, right? Especially when as you close in on the sannyas aspect of that Varnashram Dharam. Having said that, even if you look at the birds, right? Birds, what do? The eagle, it builds a nest and then pushes away, as the babies start coming out, because it knows it. They have to, when they soar, one of those days they will not come back. They will have their own flight. But because we are endowed with intellect, we do so many things which are actually taking it a little too far, right? So yes, I would say in that sense, once the kids are adults, it's up to them. I mean, if they solicit advice because we have grayed our hair, sure, we can help them with experience, but that should not be the goal of our life.
But this is, but we cannot leave the house, na, so that it will be not good that we are going and we are taking sannyas and all that, and we will not. But
Right.
it is not good. But in that living in that atmosphere of the house, I leave my classes and I leave so many things for them, but they don't. At the last of the day, the people say that we are not required all these things. You do your. But how can it is a very next to impossible.
Tomorrow, let's talk about this topic in more detail, because I'll put that in perspective. Okay. Are you getting any brownie points for that? Are they making an entry into your karma where you are going to get some credit for what you are doing for them? Nothing.
No,
Let's
not
say
for
you
credit, just it as a duty that they are the.
have you defined the duty for yourself, or the scriptures are telling you to do that? Or is it your self-interest because of which you think you are bound with this duty? You have to confront those questions yourself. So we can get into more details. Who defines that duty? In which scripture it is said that don't leave your kids, okay, even after a certain age, and it's your duty to take care of them and then their kids, and then see their marriages and just keep hanging on to them for the rest of eternity, right? No, nobody's saying that. We only have created that. And who stops us from taking sannyas if we are really serious about our spiritual journey about it? Is it the fear of relatives or the neighbors? What are they going to say? Or who else is stopping us? We have to confront our demons around that, rather than taking the template life as something which how it's meant to be, right? It's all self-imposed pressure, nothing else.
Okay. Radhe, Radhe.
Think about it. Tomorrow we'll put it into perspective, right?
Yeah.
What is it truly? What are we truly doing?
In fact, if we don't apply the Gita, Bhagavad Gita in our day-to-day life, and the what exactly in a family also, then it is no need to go through the Gita daily. Gita teaches us that you do this like this, you do this like this, but it is very next to impossible ho jata hai. That's a problem.
It's not next to impossible. It is like we have dug such a deep pit for ourselves that we are struggling to get back on our feet. But with gradual practice, we will get there. That is the whole idea of getting educated and acquiring wisdom, that we start taking baby steps towards that detachment that is needed to let go of these strings. Because if we don't, then we repeat the same thing in our next life again. Sanskars are there. And then again, the kids will change, the spouse will change, the relatives will change, but the drama will remain the same.
Drama will, okay, Radhe, Radhe.
And we will, and
Very
then
good.
for how
Thank you,
long we
Nitin.
will, no worries, and for how long we will continue to say this pretext, or it is so difficult. I mean, of course it was difficult for us even to learn how to walk. We have forgotten that. There are so many things which are difficult in life, but when we prioritized it, we were able to accomplish that. This is nothing different from that. It is difficult because right now we are in a conditioned state, right? It comes as a shock to us. Oh my God, how can we do that? What are the people going to say? It is unprecedented for the mind. But with knowledge and wisdom, we gradually start conditioning ourselves so that, next time or gradually over the years or with time, we get better at these things. All right, let's take the next one and then we will move on. I think we have we have 10 minutes.
Can I request people that when interacting with you, please put cameras on? It's better for all of us.
Yes, I think if you'll do that,
Possible,
Shyamji will really appreciate it. And so will
if
I.
possible. Thank you so much. Yeah, Himanshu, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Himanshu.
Radhe Radhe, everyone. I just wanted to say 2 points about the last two questions related to someone like taking their own life, and the second question about the like it is so difficult that it is all our own karma, and if the karma is destined, which is the sanchit, we have so much in bank. So if we are coming with the prarabdha, we are also coming up with the past tendencies that we have with other souls. So those souls are coming as our child or as our father. So if you are very much entangled in that, that means you have that kind of karma with that soul. And it will not, that soul will not leave you, right? Because you have that karma. So the prarabdha will come because it will come, but how we react to it, it depends on our free will. So if someone takes their life, Bhagavan says, I mean, Swamiji explained this, that Bhagavan says that was not allowed, so you did it. Now you will not get this body for a long period of time. So if someone takes their life, that means they did it by their own free will. So it's not on anyone else.
True. Very true.
Thank you.
Yeah, there is a penalty for that. If somebody takes the right in their life, then they have to go through that interim period, which is a very miserable existence without body. So very true on that. In fact, Falgu Viragya is something also that happens when we talk about knowledge and we do Sharanavaran Tushti, right? Where it's like, okay, I'm surrendered, I'm this, I'm that, and that knowledge has really not sunk in. That can also happen, right? The other day I was telling that joke about the Panditji who was, somebody's relative had died, and he was telling them, soul does not die, soul is immortal, nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dhati pavaka, all that stuff he was telling to those people so that they don't cry and look at it in perspective. After a week, his cat dies and he starts crying. So the same people come to his house and say, Panditji, you were telling us about the soul, and now you are crying for the cat. You know what? I have to cry, Panditji said. He said, why? He said, because the relative was yours, but the cat is mine. Right? But he didn't get the concept, right? So that is also Falgu Viragya, where you have not really confronted, has the knowledge sunk in deep and become wisdom as yet, or it's just at a superficial level. Yes, let's take another hand, couple of hands maybe. Sandhya, go ahead. Yeah, Falguni. Yeah, go ahead, please. Falguni.
Nitinji, Radhe Radhe. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so my question is with respect to this particular slide, that you said that the ripe fruit will naturally, leave the tree by itself. So a realization comes. So what exactly is that realization? Are we realizing that this is body, this is mind, this is soul, something like that, or it is a that concept is not very clear to me, that when you say the ripe will naturally fall down from the tree. So what kind of realization comes because of which the fruit falls from the tree, So like your distance,
sure.
you're detached from the mind or the body or what is
You have
it?
developed enough dispassion, basically, enough Vairagya from this world. See, if you have complete Vairagya, you are fit for the Gyan Marg. If you are very ascetic in this world, Karam Kand is the way to go. And if you are, little detached and little attached to the world, Bhakti is the way to go. But then even in Bhakti, as you progress, you start developing dispassion or Vairagya towards the world, because you start understanding the true happiness lies in God, not in this worldly things. So that dispassion or that detachment or that viragya from worldly things, right? We are so attached to our relatives and friends and everything, bodily associates. That dispassion, when it reaches a tipping point, then it becomes like a fruit where you don't even have to tell people, hey, I'm going to leave you and go to Vrindavan. It's like big deal. You just walk off. So many people who take karam sannyas, they are ripened fruit. They are ready for the taking in that case. So that is a journey that can happen across lifetimes when you have developed enough detachment with repeated contemplation and pure wisdom. That is what it is.
Thank you, Nitinji.
Okay, we can take two more hands. I think we have 5 minutes. By the way, please fill out the feedback tracker. And we have a beautiful retreat coming up on 3rd that you need to be participating in here at Dallas. And then we have presentations. I want to remind everybody about the presentations. I'll take one question from Madhuchandaji, and then I'll spin the wheel so that the teams know their 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th of August are the dates. I'll spin the wheel. First, second, third, fourth, 4 teams will come. Your fate is sealed after that. And Shamji, you get a call from me shortly after this session we need to talk. Yes, Sandhya, you want to do Madhuji, real quick, and then I'm going to spin the wheel.
Madhuji, Radhe Radhe.
Yeah, Nitinji, Radhe Radhe, and Radhe Radhe to everybody also. My question is like somebody who forces himself or herself to death, like a suicide. Like, is the death, has the death been pre-decided, or is it like the human being himself decided?
It's free will. Basically, you have exercised your free will to your soul's detriment. Okay, and then you get penalty for that. It's a worst thing one can do to himself, because you're rejecting the body that God had given to you for a specific purpose. So you are basically disobeying the law, basically, that is, or basically what God had given you. So there's a penalty for that. And it's a miserable existence. Okay, say as a ghost, it's a miserable existence. So that's the last thing one should even think about. All right, with that said, hope I answered you, Madhuji. Sandhya, you wanted to say something, or can I spin the wheel?
I wanted to remind this, so you can, yeah.
You did remind to me. So now the moment of truth has come. I'm going to spin it, and let's see who's the first team for 27th. And here it is. Enthusiastic team, 27th August. So last time you were the last, right? So maybe it's God's way of balancing it out. Okay. Vinamra team is second. Congratulations, Vinamra team. Who's going to be the third? Oh my God, it's going to be Selfless team. So 27th, 28th, 29th. And then let's check it out. Who is the last one here? Doesn't matter. Selfless team, Shyamji, you get the most amount of time to prepare. So there you go. All right, we have 3 more minutes. Any other announcements other than the retreat that we wanted to talk about? Go ahead, Sandhya.
There was a question in the chat, if I can quickly read.
So real quick, and please fill out the feedback tracker, and don't miss out on the science of work that we are going to really expound upon over the next couple of sessions. Yes, what is the question? We have 2 more minutes.
Judy's question: if you are engaged in more of spiritual sadhana, your family might start thinking that you're going away from them, but that's not the case. So how to convince them?
How to convince them? That's an interesting one. First of all, I think the better strategy, until you have tested the water, it's better not to wear your spirituality on the sleeves, because it might make them a little uncomfortable. A lot of stories are there around that. So it's safer to do that, and then make them feel normal, that you're still a normal person, just becoming better in your day-to-day work. That may allow you to get a buy-in sooner, but let's talk about it. Put it in the feedback tracker. Maybe we can have a bit of a discussion around this topic. One more real quick, Monica ji. Yes, Monica ji, you have to unmute. Okay, you are.
Yeah. Thank you. Radhe Radhe. So we have to present on 27th?
27th, yeah.
And the next team on 28th?
29th and
30th.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you.
All the best.
I'll put it in as well, don't worry.
Put that, no worries. Okay. With that said, I think we are pretty much on time. So I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. You can stay back for the next session. Radhe Radhe, and good night, good day from my side. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Sunil bhai, Radhe Radhe. Ajay bhai, Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Shyamji. Thank you, Nitin bhai.